Okay, today is a Friday. Oh my god, it feels weird. My schedule is so weird right now, guys. Mmm. I'm eating these like weird fried chips. Mainly because I worked out a lot today. And I usually eat like junk food right before streaming. What can I say? I'm health conscious, you know? Hmm. There you go, now my phone's charged. I'm so tired. You cannot have any Olipop. No, none for you. None for you. Oh, tomorrow is an interesting day. I still am not even sure what I'm going to do for stream. I might have a little bit of a surprise for you guys. I might be really early. Hmm. And it's either going to be a really good thing or a really awkward thing. We'll figure it out. Hi, George. Hello, hello. I'm eating chips. Early as in early or on time? Okay, Barky Bark. It'll be early. I'm still debating. I have some setup stuff I gotta do. So maybe it'll work, but I'm either gonna be early or a little bit late. I'm thinking maybe a couple hours early. Judge me. You guys are gonna be like, oh my god, Josie, what the fuck? Well, what? But no promises. I'm betting on late? Nah. Get that bad juju out of here, sir. What day are you gonna be early? Probably tomorrow. Maybe. You're just being realistic, yeah. It all depends on scheduling. I have an event tomorrow, and then there's the protest. Oh. Which I'm really nervous about. I'm following past data collected here. Okay. Well, this is something I've been testing out on like my other channels and stuff as like beta testing. So I know like roughly how much I got going in for me, but yeah, it's not a march here. It's gonna be a just like a No King's Day parade, not parade. Jesus, for once I'm not doing a fucking parade. Oh my god. Yeah. Are you doing A/B testing and canonical release channels on your content? No! I'd fucking cry. Yum. Chat. I've been giving my baby formula. It's been working. He's had a lot more energy. Which is good. Also, I want to expand on stuff a little bit. We don't know exactly what's wrong with him, but we do know that it's not good. So we're just kind of working with it. Yeah, so he has a bit more energy. He's meowing today. He's not just like laying by the food bowl and like staring at the water fountain. So that's good. But am I eating veggie straws? Kind of. They're like these ranch chips things that I get from Aldi. But about halfway through the stream, I'm gonna have to force feed him. But it might be good for me to just let him sleep. Because he's finally taking a nap. So tomorrow, I won't be able to be at the protest for super long. Because my he needs medication and stuff. Basically like on the hour. So it's almost, I've been doing it like every 30 minutes to every hour and a half, depending on how much sleep he's getting. I've just been giving him a lot more energy. And Andrew and I have been like trading off a bit. Because he's home all the time when I'm not here. So it'll be, I have not been sleeping Lamau. That's why the past couple days I've been like, because I've been having to do my stuff. And now he can go to the litter on his own again, which is really good. Because for a bit, he was having, like accidents and stuff. So I'd have to wake up and I'd have to take him to the litter and stuff. To make sure he could, like, go. But he's been walking around today, which is really good. And we switched up his meds, so he's not, like, as, like, nauseous anymore. So, I'm hoping that we can figure it out. Yeah. And, because last night I got to sleep a little bit more. And I got my workout in, and I wasn't just, like, going crazy and doing all this insane shit. I am able to talk about some of the new stuff again. Without just being like, ugh. Which, I mean, we've covered quite a bit. But, also, in my city, where they're having the No Kings protest, it's in a really small venue compared to where it has been. Hi, Chaotic. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how that goes. Because, I think there's gonna be, there might be too many people. It might overflow a bit. But since I live in a red state, I don't know if, like, there's gonna be a huge police or military presence. We'll have to wait and see. But anyways, that's kind of my little update today. How are you guys doing? And Mima was walking around a little bit yesterday. It was just really bad earlier this week. You're doing okay? Your classes came back yesterday? Vibes. Go chaotic. Go chaotic. I'm almost done with my chips. I need to hit my macros today. That's why I'm eating like the rest of the bag. Is it the same classes as before or different ones? George says, well, the last protest in my county, all 8 Democrats showed up with their signs, no crowd control needed. Yeah. Here in, I live in the blue dot, so a lot of people are very excited. It's going to be like 4 hours long. Like I said, I don't know how long I'll be able to be there because of my maybe a couple of hours. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I took pictures last time I was there. We had, there were a couple of different protests. I think there was one around the 4th of July. And then there's no Kings. And then there was another one that we had that was like planned. Most of them were at the Memorial Park here. Paddock says, some are the same, some are different. I didn't pass Physics 1 and Vectorial Algebra. Dang. I'm taking these classes again. The new classes I'm taking are Calculus 2, General Chemistry, and Producing Academic Papers. Nice. Hey, it's okay. I had to drop out of school, so technically, I also didn't pass. But that was a while ago, so you can come back from it. And now that you've already been through it, the next time you go through it, it can be even better, so. That's my perspective. I think, if we're talking about the protests a bit, I think in Texas, the governor was like, we're gonna, what did he say? That's very chaotic. Building good study habits is really hard. Chaotic says, what protests are you talking about? No Kings. What states are releasing the National Guard for no Kings? Let's see. It's not a hate America thing, by the way. A lot of people are saying that's what it is, but that's obviously not what it is, because if people hated America, they wouldn't even protest. They'd probably just leave America if they could. So it's like, let's see. Textures. Yeah. So Abbott orders the Texas National Guard to Austin ahead of No King State protest, which is a little freaking nanners. Here you guys go. There's a link for that. I don't think any other state is coming up with the same precautions. Personally, I wish that I was in the Capitol for what's going on, because I think that the Capitol is going to have a lot more, not rowdiness, but it's going to have a lot more attention. But I think being here in my city is actually going to be, it could be better. I believe it will be. For, I don't know what's going on. We'll have to see. George says, what king are you protesting against? Belgium, Spain, maybe Denmark? You know Trump, how he posted that picture of him wearing the crown and stuff and said that he would be king? Protesting the dude who thinks he's king. Who's building a national monument for himself. Which is crazy. I've never heard of a president building a national monument for themselves. I think Trump is the only one doing it. Like the freaking arch. Like the Arc de Triomphe or whatever. If someone calls themselves king, and that's not their official title, and they're supposed to have a high status position in the government, I think it's valid to protest that. It's not just that. It's more so like the things, the Freedom Arc. He said he was literally building it as a monument to himself. His accomplishments. Which is not the best look. IMO. I'm trying to eat this as fast as I can so I can like dive into it for you guys, just so you know. I know you guys are like, or maybe you're not, but like, I want to be sure I'm done eating by the time we dive into like the actual content. Low-key, I just think it's a waste of money, honestly. And what does it mean to like build something for yourself like that? I feel like it kind of loses its specialty if you're building something in memorial to yourself. Aren't people supposed to build some things for you because they want to remember you? That's like the weird stuff to me. Alright, doggos. Low crusty bits are hard to get with the chopsticks. Are you ready? Go ahead. There's like none for you. Probably shouldn't have that much salt anyways. Anyways. Let's get some stuff on the Freedom Arch. Daria says, I've had 2 glasses of wine and we watched a voodoo film. I hope it was good. It's called Arc de Trump. It's got like a... Or also Independence Arc. Like what you're saying for short. That's so weird. It was so dumb. I really fucking loved it. Hell yeah. Here's a link to some more information about it, because he announced it on Wednesday, but I was also like, oop, on Wednesday. Well, long story short, I personally think it's pretty BM, like bad manners, to put a lot of government money and shit like that towards fucking just a monument when people are literally at risk of losing their SNAP benefits for next month because of the shutdown, as well as lots of other crazy stuff that's going on. Like people who are in the military aren't able to get their health insurance stuff to go through. So that's pretty crazy. Some of my like my neighbors and stuff who are in the military are like panicking a bit because they have like they can't get their kids into the doctor, or they have to pay out of pocket for it because their insurance is just not like they're not able to get it to go through. And apparently that's something that's happening all over the US right now. And he's building an Arc de Triomphe. I know, that's what I was saying, Darius. It's fucking crazy. Sorry, but it's fucking stupid. It's not original. And arches like that have a lot of history in Europe. I'm a little spotty on some of this, so I'll find something in a second. But from my knowledge, let's see. They're normally built as like a gift from the leader to military leaders who accomplished war or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, they are from Roman times, Darius. Yeah. We have a faux one here in my city too. Yeah. There's a video about it. Let's see. There's a couple of them. There's the Archde Argentari, Augustus, Constantine, Drusus, Gallienus, Janus, Titus, and another Titus, and then Septimus Severus. There's a couple of different ones. That's just Rome. But let's see. These triumphal arches, let me get you the link. There's not really a lot to see here. Yeah, they're good for conquering parades. I guess so. Yeah. But, I should fucking show you. It's gonna take me a second. Just so y'all know. Oh, it actually, first time. Dang, that's nice. That's basically the use for them, for triumphs. That's true, they were for parades. Yeah. These triumphal arches celebrated the achievements of commanders and emperors. During the imperial period, these arches became increasingly elaborate, often adorned with detailed sculptures depicting the honored emperor and his deeds. Notable examples in Rome include the Arch de Titus, Septimus Severus, and Constantine. Yeah, they just kind of stayed pretty popular and pretty prevalent. There's Rome, y'all, in Italy. Ciao. And then there's the Vatican. It's to celebrate the 250th anniversary, not Trump. But he specifically said that it was to celebrate him and his deeds. I'll find a link of that in a little bit. Let's see. But he said that today. In his weird meeting with Zelensky. Let's see. Darius says around the 18th century, the enlightened despots started to rebuild them. Yeah. I'm not surprised. And they're all over Europe, too. He's messing with the press. So here's the thing. Trump says that he's messing with the press a lot, but then he just kind of like follows through with him messing with the press. And then it's like, how much is it him like actually messing with the press? And how much of it is like his actual belief system? That's the thing. Because there's lots of things where people are like, oh, he's just messing with the press. Either he's just messing with the press or whatever. But I don't really think he is, just because he hasn't really like been messing with the press ever, because he follows through with a lot of what he says. George says because he knows what they spread about it. I don't know. People said he was just messing with the press when he said that he was gonna fire and lay off a ton of workers during the whole Congress like bill agreement that's going on for the budget. And he actually started doing it the past couple of days, which is super fucked. People from the CDC, people from the health department, not just the health department, but lots of other agencies too. I think some national parks people, like extra people, are having to get laid off or whatever, having to. It's people are like, oh no, it's not serious, it's not serious, and then he actually started laying people off or ordering people to lay other people off, you know? Daria says Trump equates power with symbolism, like his name on towers, etc. So it's well within his character to think the White House in Washington should look like some American fetish of European architecture. Agreed. Agreed. So I feel like, well, earlier this year we talked about this, but he stated that he didn't want any other. There was an executive order about this. Maybe I can find it. Let's see. This was August 28th, making federal architecture beautiful again. Let's see. They sought to use classical architecture, blah, 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 blah. But basically, this is the executive order, just because I want to cite my sources. But long story short, he wants all new developments of federal property to fit within a certain demographic and look like this faux, like, Gilded Age kind of bullshit, for lack of better terms. Because here in America, we don't have a lot of, like, traditionalist, like, really old architecture. A lot of our architecture is very, like, neo-Gothic and that sort of thing. Yeah. But the thing is brutalist architecture, not everything is brutalist architecture, but saying that all the buildings have to look like a impression of European architecture basically is just not the vibe. It doesn't really, like, make a lot of stuff look great. I guess we don't agree on Scousers either. I don't know. I think Scousers are fine. IMO. It was a long time ago. Hundreds of years. I'm saying this is bait. Like, it's a joke. It's a joke, Darius. I'm being annoying. But yeah, when it comes to Trump and trying to make architecture fit a certain mold, it can cause more harm than good. Decolonize the canal. And in here, let's see. Yeah, when renovating, reducing, or expanding applicable federal public buildings that do not meet the criteria set forth in subsection A of this section, the feasibility and potential expense of the building redesign to meet those criteria should be examined. Where feasible and economical, such redesign should be given substantial consideration, especially with regard to the building's exterior. So basically, Section A stated, applicable federal buildings should uplift and beautify public spaces and inspire the human spirit, ennoble the United States, and command respect from the general public. They should also be visually identifiable as civic buildings, as appropriate, respectable regional architectural heritage. Which, IMO, what heritage? Like, a lot of the individualism that has come from different regions has been stamped out or torn down or burned down to try to make America more unified, which is, that's like way before America was like actually made into America, you know? But that's like a whole nother discussion. And we didn't have enough money when we were colonies to build a lot of like beautiful architecture that has lasted a super long amount of time. Let's see. Traditional and classical architecture that meet the criteria set forth in this subsection of the preferred architectural applicable federal buildings in the District of Columbia. Classical architecture shall be preferred and default architecture for federal buildings, absent exceptional factors necessitating another kind of architecture. Yeah, but yeah, no, you're right. The actual classical architecture is. Let me show you. Let me show you. You guys get to see as I speak. Because he does mention it, but I'm just kind of like talking a lot, so. Alright, you should recap on Peterloo and Manchester as kind of the birth of modern politics. Or read up on that. Yeah, I should. Classical architecture means the architectural tradition derived from the forms, principles, and vocabulary of the architecture of Greek and Roman antiquity, which that never touched America, just so you guys know. They didn't really come here. And as later developed and expanded upon by the Renaissance architects as Alberti, Vernicelli, Michelangelo, and Palladio. Palladio? Anyways, such Enlightenment masters as Robert Adam, John Soane, Christopher Wren, and such 19th century architects as Benjamin Henry Latrobe, Robert Millis, and Thomas U. Walter, and such 20th century practitioners as Julian Emerald, blah 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 blah, Rafael Camarega, McKim, Russell Pope, Julia Morgan, and the firm of Delano and Aldrich. Bruh. So it needs to include neoclassical, Georgian, Federal, and Greek Revival, Beaux Arts, and Art Deco. Which, on their own, a couple of those different designs are not very... Like, Art Deco could be... It's like a more modernized version, or at least it can be. Same with, like... I want to say Federal, because Federal can borderline, like, very brutalist, too, if you, like, do it a certain way. So they're really just trying to typecast a lot of buildings, and it makes it more expensive, and blah, 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 blah. This is going to come back into play later on, but Trump is really trying to make everything look the same, and a lot of buildings that have existed, like what they mentioned up here, that means criteria, so, yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This is like the redesign thing. So they're trying to pressure different historic buildings to just completely, like, redesign and go to a different, like, design plan or whatever. So everything looks like uniform, which, in my opinion, removes a lot of history. Because one of the beautiful things about living in the United States is that there's so many different states, there's so many different regions, and it's a huge area of land that encompasses lots of different cultures. So buildings in, let's say, friggin', I don't know, Arizona are going to be built differently and have different layouts and different, like, plans or whatever than something in Minnesota, than something on the East Coast or Hawaii or Alaska, or even in places like Puerto Rico and different territories of the United States. Different regions require different building codes and standards, which means that some of the motifs that you'll put on the exterior have to be made of different materials, or they have to be created differently. And you can't really have that uniformity in the same way. There is going to have to be a lot of customization. So you can, like, it's like you erase the region's history by trying to make it look like something from the East Coast, which wouldn't really last super long in those areas. So it's kind of sad. Daria says city planning, like after the fires in London, Rome, Paris, etc., did kind of have similar principles. Yeah, but that was, like, after fires, you know? And, like, the United States is massive. It's bigger than the entire, like, it's bigger than Europe. Like, it's huge. And it encompasses a ton of different, like what I said, a ton of different, like, demographics and regions that require different standards of being built, and different materials are going to wear down faster in those regions. Like, here in Nebraska, if you were to build something out of limestone, like have a limestone facade, which is very common in a lot of historical buildings because it can be a lot cheaper, as well as, like, newer buildings because it can be cheaper than marble, but it doesn't last through time as well as marble would because it gets too wet here and it's too humid here, and the limestone just kind of, like, disintegrates and deteriorates in that wet heat. It becomes very brittle. So it's like if you want to have that uniformity, it's going to be a lot more expensive. Like it really is. And it's going to, like I said before, remove a lot of the traditions from the area. It's a cheap knockoff of France at its core. Yes, it literally is. It literally is. And it just makes me like scream. It makes me so frustrated. So when he's building like this arch and stuff, I think it doesn't really celebrate a lot of America's heritage. Like I'm not super for it because it's so out of place. Like some cities, like my own, will build like modified replicas of different arches from Europe. There are also arches that have been taken from Europe and placed in different regions of Europe as well. I think there's some arches from Europe here in America, like how London Bridge from literal London is in fucking Arizona now. Like, we do take things from other countries and just place them here, but the thing is that it has history because it comes from that place. Trying to appropriate someone else's history and be like, nah, this is our own now is really weird because it removes us of the opportunity of building our own culture from where we're at now. Anyways, Daria says, it's interesting to me how superficial his administration is. It's just renaming things or getting things to look the same. Yeah, it's removing America's culture and just making it all like not really whitewashed, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like it's just everything's like gray, you know? There's no yeah, homogenized is the word you want, but it's not even like homogenized because it doesn't include it erases a lot of different culture from different communities and different regions. It's just saying that oh, everything has to look like this because it's America. If you were to go to a place like China, every city in China, there are like themes that go throughout the entire country, but most of the government buildings are very modern or they fit into the region, which is really interesting. Same with I would say like Australia too. Australia is doing a lot of that. New Zealand is as well. But you're not seeing that here in America. Like here, one of the things that I hear from people who are from like, you know, China or countries that have a lot more development that's going on and really focus on having not individuality, but just like, you know, making things not super boring. But like I know Australia doesn't have its own culture, but at least they diversify their buildings. That's what I'm talking about. Like it's not all the same building cookie cuttered. But like a lot of people from countries that value that sort of culture and want it to be integrated and change with time. Like I guess Japan can also be a good example of that. Um they come to America and they're just like everything looks the same here. Like everything is boring. Because it is. It is. There's like no uniqueness. If you go to Omaha, Nebraska, and then you go to Kansas City, it looks exactly the same. If you go from Kansas City to Denver, Colorado, it looks exactly the same except for the mountains. Hi, Big Spoke. Hi, baby. Anyways, that's my cat. If you go from like freaking LA to San Francisco, it looks almost exactly the same. The only thing super unique about it is a lot of the homes that are built because it's the private property that can have more individuality. If you go to suburbs, GG gamer, you're fucked because HOAs are going to make it so every home looks the same. It's so frustrating. I've been to Boulder, Colorado, and Tucson, Arizona. It was very different. Boulder was great. Yeah, that's also because it's two different regions. So the examples I've been giving you are places that are from similar regions. So Midwest versus like West Coast versus like the desert, you know? It's going to be a little different. It's about material needs for regional climates, etc. Yeah. But anyways, that's just a little bit of a tangent about like the art stuff that we were talking about because I'm just like I could go on about that forever. Forever. Come here, Missy. think I might be able to get her to come up. What are you doing? Come here. Come here, come here. Yes. Come snacks. Woo. She's a bit chonky right now because she's been stealing some of Mikey's food. And by stealing, I have leftover like formula for Mikey, and then I give it to her because she thinks it tastes good, and she's just a baby. I give her just a little tasting. That's okay. Are you gonna support this ridiculous course at Nottingham about how Lord of the Rings needs to be colonized? Bruh. I wish both sides would just leave it alone. It's not for them, it's for me. Bruh. I don't know about that one. I haven't paid attention to a lot of that. Oh, I did want to cover a bit of the Supreme Court today. This might not be something that you're very educated on, Darius. Sometimes I say Darius or Darius. I don't know what it's supposed to be, so I do whatever I want. Unless you want to correct me. But I also want to dive a bit into what's going on with the Supreme Court, because a lot of people don't understand how lax it can be, and there's a lot of really big stuff that's like going on right now. And the Supreme Court is seen as like, oh, you don't mind. I was once called Garius by someone on my team for 2 years. Okay, that's fair. Bixby, what are you doing, Missy? I mean, do you guys want to talk about the Supreme Court? I don't know. Is that something that you're interested in? Because I want to discuss it a little bit. I have a really good video. Well, there's a couple videos that I have that might be beneficial, but I don't know like the knowledge that you guys have on it. But I'll give you a TLDR. So, within the United States federal government, we have 3 sections. Can we just read instead of watching videos? Really? Why? It's so like, you can't like see the examples. I like the videos. I'm just like, look, they talk so much better than me. Okay, the long story short, there are 3 tiers of our government. Well, not tiers. They all work in unison, like a triangle. Illuminati. It is the true Illuminati. Anyways, you have the judicial branch, which would include the Supreme Court, as well as like parts of our justice system. There are some things at the more local level that can be done, like handled separately, like by the state, but that's a whole different discussion. You also have our executive branch, which is Trump, right now, and then lots of other administrative offices, like the Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, and also stuff like war-related things or military stuff, like the Pentagon. That's all within the executive branch for the most part. And then you have Congress, which deals with like budgeting and passing rules and regulations for the country as a whole, as well as kind of checking the judicial branch and the executive branch. The executive branch doesn't really get to do a lot of checks and balances when it comes to anything. They're just kind of for face and managing a lot of the different like extensions of the government at the federal level. So Pentagon, Department of Homeland Security, Department of like Justice or whatever. Like there's so many like random things. National parks, so on and so forth. Let's see. Dari says civil v. criminal v. federal v. state. I don't know how that's arranged in America. Kind of. It really... There's also different layers to it. It really depends. So it depends on what you're like being tried for and at what level. You can be tried... I have a good video for this. I really do. It'd be such a good example. It is kind of lazy. Just so you know. I know you guys want me to talk about it. Start with federal versus state, please. Oh... I feel like state primarily has to deal with things that are, in general, like state laws, you know. But then, okay, let me find the thing for you. Like, I'm see if I can find like a flowchart. Because that would be like really helpful. No, that's not. It's just like the crime. No, that's not helpful. It is interesting though. Do, 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 do. No. Okay. Oop. So this is like a pretty good example. Yeah. Okay. I am not super good at this. I've just been taking like a judicial kind of like base class, so we've talked about this a lot. Just the definitions, I want to show you. I feel like me showing you is going to be more helpful than me just talking about it. Okay. So you have federal courts and you have state courts. The federal courts are the U.S. District Courts and then the Court of Appeals and then the U.S. Supreme Court. So the district courts, there's like the most of them. The Court of Appeals is like basically right here. Each region is one of the different regions of the Court of Appeals. That's why whenever there is a case federally, it can be, how do I say, it's very important to focus on what district it is from. So a case that would be in District 5 would probably be a lot more pro the current administration that we have compared to a case in District 9 or a case in District 1. What's the distinction between state and federal? Oh, well, I guess this is like a good example here. To file a lawsuit in a federal court, one must allege that there is a breach of federal law or the U.S. Constitution. These are cases that raise a federal question. Federal courts also hear a unique type of case involving diversity of citizenship, where the case is between citizens of different states and potential damages exceeding of $75,000. So if you were to have someone steal from you and they live in like California, right? But the theft happened and the theft of property happened here in Nebraska, you would have to be tried for that theft here in Nebraska, but it would be involved with the federal courts. So the feds would have to be involved in that. And this also happens with, I'm not going to dive super deep into it, but it's important to mention that that's when feds get involved. So if there is a crime that happens across state lines, or someone flees across state lines, the feds have to be involved in it, and then it goes from either the city's police department or the county police department or sheriff's department to the feds. So they either have to work jointly or they have to alleviate responsibility to the feds, depending on the type of case that it is. Now, in contrast, state courts are known as courts of general jurisdiction, meaning that one can raise any claim under state or federal law, except those that are under exclusive jurisdiction of federal courts. But that's basically like the most condensed version of all this. Also, hi to Hammy. Yeah, federal law supersedes state law in certain circumstances. But yes, sometimes you can have instances where the state law conflicts with the federal law, and then that goes to the Supreme Court, or it can go up to the Supreme Court. Sometimes the Supreme Court is allowed to reject certain cases, and that could be for so many different things. So for context, the Supreme Court on average, because this was one of my test questions, I remember it, on average, the Supreme Court can get anywhere from 1,800 to multiple thousand case requests every single year. And they usually can only take about 50 to at most 80 of them. And the only reason why they can take at most 80, like why there's a large range, is because they can start doing things online or remotely now. But there is a condition that I think the majority of the court has to be in person or something like that for it to be considered valid. Daria says, I looked it up. Does this sound right? Federal law is created by the U.S. Congress and applies uniformly across all 50 states. The District of Columbia and U.S. territories, while state law is enacted by individual state legislatures and applies only within that specific state's borders. Yes. Yes and no. Darius adds on to that, saying, when a conflict arises between federal and state law, the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution, Article, I think that's like 6, right? I'm not good at reading Roman numerals. I'm dyslexic as fuck. It's always hard for me. Establishes that federal law is the supreme law of the land and takes precedence over conflicting state laws. This means that if a state law directly contradicts a federal law will prevail. Yes and no. Because there are... Sharpies? Do you want what color?
Black, please.
I don't know if I have a black Sharpie here now.
When is this a darker color? Blue will work.
I have red.
That'll work.
Red is good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, here for the Josie Civic class. Ah! Damn it. I've always avoided being that. It's funny. But anyways, there are certain circumstances where a state law can challenge like a federal law, and that gets really goofy because sometimes no, I know what you mean, but sometimes, like, here's the thing with the judicial system that I really wanted to dive into today because it's very important, or at least I think it's pertinent or relevant to the situation at hand that we're having, like, within our overall government structure. There is little to no way for the Supreme Court or any of the federal courts to enforce their rules and regulations. Basically, what they do sets precedent. So, and by precedent, it means that if there were to be a similar case with the laws set as they are by either Congress or, sometimes previous precedents that they have had, it should be followed like a certain way. Precedent is how the law is interpreted. No. Yes and no. So like the overturning of Roe v. Wade was absolutely wild because Roe v. Wade set a precedent. It kind of allowed for everybody to have reproductive rights, like, overall, And then one state was like, we're not going to abide by this anymore. So it basically challenged a lot of stuff that was going on. This is like a very condensed generalization of what's going on. Get it up, let's read then. What do you mean? Get it up and let's read? Like precedent? I don't know what you mean. Give me what you want me to talk about, I guess. But when it comes to something like Roe v. Wade, that was a case that set precedent for all the way up until its overturning a while, like within the past like 5 or so years. The overturning of Roe v. Wade has set a new precedent that dictates that states are allowed to have more independence on how they regulate birth control and that access. But here's the thing. Now that can change if Congress decides to have a different type of legislative, legislative repercussions towards different standards that they set for birth control access. So if Congress were to pass a bill, like House and Senate, and be signed into law by the president and stuff, if a bill were to be passed stating that birth control has to be accessible within a certain amount of parameters, then the previous, decision that was made by the Supreme Court would be null and void because it only applies to the previous laws and regulations that it was set within, if that makes sense. So that's how things are always in flux. So you'll hear about so many different rules and regulations that have occurred that are like the Supreme Court was like, oh, we're going to side this way in favor with this, but then the laws changed, so everything that they did prior is no longer like relevant. Let's see. Yeah, this is Roe v. Wade here. I didn't want to dive too deep into the weeds. I just wanted to like explain to you how that process works. Now, the state courts work in a similar way, but they don't have the same level, because like it shows right here, state courts can also make it all the way up to the Supreme Court, so they can kind of switch over to the federal courts. And that's the kind of like, well, you know, state isn't entirely separate, it can go all the way up there, and then the federal decision will apply to all states. So generally speaking, the Supreme Court, to my knowledge, takes preference with the federal courts rather than the state courts, unless the state court decision would impact a lot of the social issues at hand. But like I said before, I don't want to get too fast into different things, right? But the Supreme Court has no way of enforcing any of the things that they want to like comment on. So like if the Supreme Court or a federal court of appeals or anything like whatever states that, like let's say Trump and the immigration stuff that's going on with ICE, if they put a pause on Trump trying to export people to lots of other random countries, then they have no way of enforcing it, like arresting Trump or anything like that. It just gives Congress more ammunition to discipline the president via, what do you call it? They can kick him out of office, which that's the impeachment process. And technically, it's not the impeachment process. It's just saying that he did something wrong. And what is decided through the impeachment process is what happens in the Senate, to my understanding. But yeah, nowadays, because of a regulation that was passed by the Supreme Court in, I think, I can't even remember exactly what case it was, but it was within the past couple of years. It stated, let me get that for you, because that one is actually quite relevant. I'm tired, y'all. Okay. Supreme Court case that states presidential immunity. Yeah, so this was in 2024. And here are the documents for it. I'm not going to dive super deep into it. But yeah. And that is quite a good breakdown, yeah. This is actually good for my memory. Now I will remember it forever until it changes. But yeah. This is like a very like more in-depth breakdown of what I was describing. But in Trump v. United States, the decision that was made basically stated, long story short, that the president cannot be tried for any actions that were done while they are in office. So that causes a lot of problems, because if a president were to be impeached, you cannot enforce that impeachment on the court level, which is difficult because that's what Congress would utilize to like for ammunition to get them out of office, because it's very important. Let's see. Daria says, under our constitutional structure of separated powers, the nature of presidential power entitles a former president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, and he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all of his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. Yes. So if he were to do something that was like private, like I don't know, freaking beat up a random person on the street or whatever, or like do anything like that, and I don't know, like murder someone just like in cold blood or whatever, which maybe that's not the best example, but you know what I mean. Like, if he were to do anything like that, he could be tried via like the state courts. But if it was something that was like an official act or whatever, where like he orders someone within the Pentagon to do it, and it's like if he can make the argument that it's for national security, then he would be able to, for the most part, get away with it. Darius says, and he's quoting from the page or the link that he made earlier, criminally prosecuting a president for official conduct undoubtedly poses a far greater threat or intrusion to the authority of the functions of the executive branch than simply seeking evidence of his possession. The danger is greater than what led the court to recognize that absolute presidential immunity from civil damages liability of the president would be, you're quoting from this case, most interesting parts. Oh, nice. Are you using AI for that? Because vibes, I guess. Bold and unhesitating action required of an independent executive. You're not? Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. But I do want to mention that a lot of this stuff is you're reading the case because reading is how you learn in it. Unless you're dyslexic, and then you have to have it read to you. That's why I use audiobooks. But yeah, long story short, you have like the syllabus and all this sort of thing. It's all, you can all read it. I gave you the source. It's about 120 some pages. But long story short, that makes things a little bit more iffy. But if Congress were to go about and make a law stating that these are the parameters that the president would have to be held to, and this is like X/Y/Z would be what you could prosecute a president for or someone within the executive branch for, that would change everything. And then this would be pretty much null and void. It would have to either be challenged differently by the next like president in office or someone from the executive branch or something similar, but probably the next like president in office, or it would have to be like, you know, slightly changed by, you know, amended by the by Congress again. Dari says, I'm dividing official from unofficial conduct. Courts may not inquire. It's better if you use quotations, by the way. Inquiry into the president's motives, such as highly intrusive. Inquiry would risk exposing even the most obvious instances of official conduct to judicial examination on the mere allegation of improper purpose, which I think sets very improper precedent. IMO. So having a court system that's not allowed to inquire into the president's motives or what they are doing is very, very not good. It is just not good. Because then if Trump were to do something and had negative motives or was trying to do something to promote his own actions, look at page 5 and the insurrection stuff. Okay. No, I know. It's not fun. I had to read over this for class. But yeah. See, can I highlight it? Let's see. With the above principles in mind, the court the indictment alleges that as part of the conspiracy to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election, Trump and his co-conspirators attempted to leverage the Justice Department's power and authority to convenience certain states to replace or convince, apologize, I'm dyslexic, certain states to replace their legitimate electors with Trump's fraudulent slates of electors. According to the indictment, Trump met with the acting attorney general and other senior Judicial Department and White House officials to discuss investigating a purported election fraud and sending a letter from the department of those states regarding such fraud. The indictment further alleges that after the acting attorney general receded Trump's request, Trump repeatedly threatened to replace him. Yeah. The government does not dispute the indictment's allegations regarding the Justice Department's involvement evolvement of Trump's use of official power, the allegations in fact plainly implicate Trump's conclusive and preclusive authority, which those words have been coming up a lot more. The executive branch has exclusive authority and absolute discretion to decide which crimes to investigate and prosecute, including with respect to allegations of election crime. Nixon 418 U.S. at 693, and the president's management of the executive branch requires him to have unrestricted power to remove the most important of his subordinates, such as the Attorney General, in their most important duties. Fitzgerald 457 U.S. at 750. The indictment allegations that the requested investigations were shams or proposed for improper purpose do not divest the president of exclusive authority over the investigative and prosecutorial functions of the the Justice Department and its officials. Because the president cannot be prosecuted for conduct within his exclusive constitutional authority, Trump is absolutely immune from prosecution of the alleged conduct involving his discussions with the Justice Department officials. Which is crazy. It's crazy. I think what it means is Trump is now greenlit to use the Justice Department any way he likes without his motives being questioned and therefore it being official business. It's not just the judicial department. It also sets precedent with, because what they said in here was like the Attorney General and everything like that and their most important duties. Unrestricted power to remove the most important of his subordinates and stuff like that. So that means that if he doesn't like someone within anybody in the executive branch whatsoever, so that could be the Department of Justice, which is kind of what it was referring to in this case a little bit. But yes, so that means that he could fire anybody that he wants, and he wouldn't have to be like, he wouldn't have to answer any questions about it. And that's what he's using right now for this whole, I mean, this is really relevant because he's using this precedent to fire a shit ton of people while we're having the government shut down. He can basically fire anyone he wants, whoever he wants. The previous FBI director, he basically jousted out of office, and then he has Patel in. So now he's able to fire anybody he wants and make the entire executive branch, which was before this point in time supposed to be a lot more nonpartisan, but because there are no actual, how do I say it? There is no actual legislation stating that every official within these high positions has to be nonpartisan. It's more of an unspoken thing, depending on the branch that it's part of within, because there's like 50 plus different organizations that Trump has control over within the executive branch. Like, there is a ton. What departments does the executive branch oversee? There are so many. Okay, the new department consolidated 22 executive branch agencies. Let's see if they're all listed here, because I want to find a list. Yeah, this is like a list just for you guys. But it's a lot. That's a lot. And he can also, it's not that he can use the Justice Department in any way he likes without stuff being questioned. It means that he can do whatever he wants without being questioned about it. So previously, people would be able to sue Trump or sue the president's like legislation and stuff like that. And this is just my interpretation. So if you guys are more educated in like the legal field or whatever, please let me know, like, if you have any other opinions about this. But from my understanding as a student in this area, it's fucking crazy. Trump would be able to do whatever he wants within the executive branch, and then they would not be able to sue him and really get any repercussions for any of the actions that he's done. Like, they cannot, they could technically if they wanted to, and that could like change the precedent or whatever, but this has set precedent that he doesn't have to explain himself for firing people. It's basically like an at-will state. Like, I live in an at-will state. So, like, someone would, like, there is no, like, if an employer would not have to tell me why they were firing me to be fired. And then it would be the employee's responsibility to prove that they were fired unjustly. And that's just one example of how this could play out. There's so many other, like, ways that this sets precedent, because until there are more cases that make it up to the Supreme Court or the higher courts about Trump and his administration regarding, like, all of the bullshit he does, this could be used very broadly, and Trump is trying to take advantage of that within a lot of the different state courts. Like, a lot of his lawyers are trying to make him look better and say that this case applies a lot more broadly. And then however those cases go would dictate how much control a president would have, or the executive branch would have. So that's just me being like, there's a lot of different layers to this. And I've been very invested in law for a long time. I'm taking classes about all this stuff. This is, like, obviously actively part of a lot of our discussions. I have to interview different, like, lawyers and paralegals and that sort of thing about it for my classes, which it's been interesting to say the least. But I haven't put as much focus on the federal side of things aside from immigration. Immigration has been more of where I've been putting my focus in my studies. But so this is, I could be incorrect with some stuff, but to my understanding, that's kind of how it lays out. But yeah, this it sets a lot of precedent, and it's very broad in some aspects. But we'll have to see how it goes. There's also other things that could happen where there's been lots of push, like, within a lot of people in the legal field to have limitations for justices within the Supreme Court so that they're not there for life. So, like, let's say a term would be about 10 to 15 years rather than for life, so that it would be harder for any president or any political party to basically, like, put the courts in their favor. Because traditionally speaking, the courts were not seen to be as partisan as they are now. They're supposed to be a very supposedly nonpartisan institution where they try to uphold the Constitution for whatever the Constitution may be. So if, you know, like, if the Constitution states that something is one way versus another way, and this is getting into a lot of different discussions, so over whether someone is, like, an old school constitutionalist or whatever, or, like, wanting to go back to way back, you know, like, to how the founding fathers had it, which is not a good look, honestly, or if they want to more modernize it, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and some of the other, like, more left-leaning justices that we've had recently. But she's the most popular one, so I always like to mention her. Yeah, we have had a lot more left-leaning ones too, but they go through cycles depending on the president. So, like, the president in charge, if they're wanting to make it a partisan institution, it would make sense for them to try to hire younger and younger and younger people to get into the Supreme Court rather than having someone who is older, which is why they've been going for younger people as of late. Like, Kavanaugh was a bit younger. I think this woman who came in, I totally spaced on her name right now. I'm very tired. But the most recent lady, yeah. She is also quite young as well. And that means that they're going to be sitting in the court for a long period of time. But let me also mention this. All of this is able to change because Congress sets the limitations that the Supreme Court has to live through. So if Congress states that they want there to be 15 Supreme Court justices, then there would be an additional, like, right now we're at 9. There would be an additional 6 Supreme Court justices that would have to go through the process. And whatever bill they pass would dictate how many terms it would take to get to that 15 marker. So this is all subject to change dependent on Congress. The reason why things are the way they are right now is because Congress, the Supreme Court, as well as the executive branch, are all ran by primarily Republican individuals. And because of that, there are no changes that can be made easily to any of the Supreme Court institutions to make things more fair. I'm not saying that is something that will happen, but I can fucking guarantee you that there will be lots of discussions about this the minute that Democrats or left-leaning individuals get control over Congress as a whole, which is why Trump is doing everything in his power, and MAGA as well, to discredit Democrats before the election that's coming up next year. Daria says, OMG, Andrew has been stripped of official titles. Yeah, I'm not surprised. He low-key was on, like, the Epstein list, right? But anyways, we could dive a lot deeper into this information if you guys would like to. Normally, I like to keep things, like, sweet and vague here on stream, but when people are discussing why having a Republican majority in the overall federal institution matters so much, this is why. Because everything will be at a standstill, and they can't really pass a lot either, because a lot of what they're trying to do would take a long time, like tons of court precedents and all of that stuff, which would all become null and void the minute that you had a predominantly left-leaning majority in Congress. Everything Trump is trying to pass and trying to go for would be fucked. And that's why this case, we can go to the case that I literally posted about the court case that's going on right now with the Supreme Court. Let's see. It's about gerrymandering and race. Current Supreme Court case. I posted about the hearings on Wednesday. It was very, very important. Let's see. Is it Barrett? Okay. Current Supreme Court case on gerrymandering. Alright. Yeah, it's about the Voting Rights Act. Let's see. And, here, I'll just pull up the NPR one because I've already read through their article. But all of this is very, very important, and this is where I wanted to get to today, because this court case is going to dictate how states are able to gerrymander certain areas. So during the let's see, a redistricting case, blah 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 blah. Let's see if they mention the actual case. I can't remember where it is. Hey, what's up?
The rabbit's gonna be down for a little while. You want to see?
Show me why. But anyways, overturning section 2 of, let's see, and whatever. Basically, there was a oh.
That's my transmission.
Yeah, no.
That's the transmission mount. That bolt's supposed to be in that hole. I found where the little engine wobble was coming from.
That fucked up your belts, right? I told
I
you the
have
engine. No, not your
no
bolts, your
idea.
belts. Yeah.
But that is a problem.
Because remember, we were saying, sorry, this is off topic, but the engine was like sounding really weird for a bit. That's why.
Well, that might have been,
Is it just like.
I don't know. I have to take the
Are you gonna have to
whole-
retap it?
I don't know.
Fuck.
Chat, do you want to see something funny?
Yeah.
No, the trans mount is not worn out, but,
You have to turn the brightness down.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Dari says, I still don't have a good grasp on the authority of the Supreme Court decisions in relation to state and federal laws. Also, previous rulings of Supreme Court has made. Well, that's because the Supreme Court's,
Can you, like, turn the...
Yeah, the Supreme Court... No, it's still too bright.
Still too bright.
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah, and you can see it right here. This is
it's auto-adjusting the brightness because
Yeah.
there was a giant light in the middle of it.
Yeah. You got it tilted up more. Okay, so this is what you want to look at.
Oh, that's the live feed?
That's the live feed.
It's just constantly adjusting the brightness. Anyway, my transmission mount, at least one of the bolts is no longer screwed into the transmission, which is a problem.
Okay. Good luck.
Do you want to make food?
No.
I don't either.
Okay. We can get food.
Yeah, today's a Dave's Hot Chicken night.
Yeah, I don't want Dave's.
We can do...
Well, maybe we can. I mean, but then we'd have to, like, I don't want to order. We'll figure out what to do. Because we'll have to order in, and that would be a lot. I might just fucking make food, bruh. George says pizza. George, we have ramen, too. I like my man raw. I'm sorry. Anyways, basically, what's going on with this case would dictate whether or not race would be able to be considered when trying to do districting. Now, this, let's see. Basically, long story short, after, the court would reaffirm that the Voting Rights Act, as it did in 2023, be Alan Milligan. But basically, the Voting Rights Act and parts of it stated that there would be I will clarify your question in just a second. I gotta finish this first. But this is quite important because during the equal rights kind of movement, civil rights movement, and stuff like that, and even beforehand, there were certain there are certain laws that were added to our federal institution that stated that Black people needed to have more representation because they were chronically underrepresented. So certain states were not able to weed out and gerrymander Black votes because they were upset that Black people were able to vote. Now, this also leads into another case that I wanted to mention. So there was a case about civil rights and people being able to all go to school together. This would be a really good, like, example in some aspects. So what case made it so that Black kids could go to white schools? That was Brown v. Board of Education. So when this case, I gotta give you all the link and everything. When this case made it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Brown instead of the Board of Education, it stated that the 14th Amendment was undoubtedly to enforce the equality of two races before the law. But in the nature of things, it could not have been intended to abolish distinctions based on color, blah, 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 blah. That was the discussion. As distinguished from political equality, one race be inferior to the other socially. The Constitution of the United States cannot put them upon the same plane. So, very, very, to put this into, like, just condense it all down. basically, black kids were allowed to go to school with white kids, and you could not have racially segregated schools anymore without it like causing lots of problems. It is illegal. But the Supreme Court could not enforce that to actually happen. So the president had to get involved and deploy the National Guard to a lot of different schools to ensure that black kids were actually able to go to schools. Let's see. And that was is also kind of relevant. So president deploying National Guard to public schools around the Board of Education. Yeah, that was Eisenhower. He deployed federal troops, sorry, not the National Guard, to Little Rock, Arkansas to enforce the Supreme Court's Brown v. Board of Education decision. So, and this is in the National Archives. There's so many sources today. So many sources. But long story short, Supreme Court does not have the ability to enforce anything like that. They just don't have the ability to enforce anything at all. So when we go back to this, what are you confused about? You said you don't have a good grasp on the authority of the Supreme Court decisions in relation to state and federal laws. Also, previous rulings the Supreme Court has made. Okay, so here's the thing. I'll try to re-explain it in a different manner, and hopefully this will be a little bit better. You're deep in the sauce, but Hassan has just had a massive crash out on how much he hates the left, socialism, etc. So expect that to dominate online discourse for a while. He's taking the bait so bad. He needs to chill. I mean, I understand why he's pissed, but like, he's just fucking taking the bait. They're picking at him, and he's letting it work. That's all I gotta say about that. Ooh. Yikes. He just needs to not, like, let him pick at him. But he doesn't know how to not do that because he's very reactive. He's gotten better, but he shouldn't be discussing certain things, and he should let people just, like, do what they want. He's not good. Maybe he is good at it, and I just don't know about it because you only know what people talk about, but ever since his dog and that sort of thing happened with like the whole shot collar fiasco or whatever, like people are going to take any ammunition that they can against him, and he needs to understand. Can I just watch the full clip before you answer my question, or is that too rude to ask? Are you talking about like the Supreme Court or Hassan? That's a valid thing to ask though. I don't know. I want to see his song cut. Bruh! It's so rough. I'm just getting my fun dip, yo. When you're back, I'll finish my discussion. Man. Fun dip time, I know, yeah. He just needs a co-streamer. Here's a link if you want to watch as well. Ooh. I feel like I'm preying on someone's, like, rough times or whatever. Oh, that feels like nothing. Okay, I'm not even gonna react to that. Like, what? I feel like he's allowed to, like, be upset sometimes, but yeah. I don't know. I think his emotions are involved in a lot of stuff right now. I don't know. We'll give it some time. I don't think it'll be, like, insanely huge, but people are going to use anything they can against him. I'm not even going to do it. You do you, boo. I, like, watched some shit about the Kaya discourse, like, his dog, and I was like, I didn't know his dog was, like, part golden. I was like, aw, same. George says, I have no clue who Hassan is. Bruh. It was funny. I found out that his dog is also like part golden. And I was like, hey, slay. I also found out that Oliver's older than his dog. I didn't know. I thought his dog was older. I don't know why I did, but I guess my dog's older. Oh no, I just viewed his dog to be older, maybe because she looks so big. Anyways, long story short, he's just a Twitch streamer. I think he should do more journalism. But he does good with Twitch. You know? Anyways, how old is Ollie? He's I got him in 2022, so he's about 3-ish. Yeah. So he's real old. Maybe I think maybe a little older than that. But I don't know. I waited until he was like almost a year old to get him fixed too. A lot of people get him done earlier, but I waited because I wanted him to become more confident, and he just kind of never did. He just little anxiety boy. I was like, maybe the testosterone will do him good, and it just made him. It just did nothing. But anyways, I'm gonna answer your question really quick. At least the one beforehand, if you're ready. I don't know. I guess we get derailed. I guess that's what it's like. Basically, I'm not going to dive super huge into like who Hassan is or whatever. I respect him. I've talked about him before, but I try not to react to his content because I feel like it fuels the fire. And a lot of streamers here, especially left-leaning streamers like myself, choose to use a lot of his content to like prop up their own content, which I'm not gonna like judge or whatever. People are gonna do what they want to do or whatever. But instead of like having their own streams or whatever, they have react streams. Like they literally call it Hoswatch. Like there's this one girl, she's really sweet. I'm not gonna like be mean or whatever or like say anything cruel, but her name is like J Marianne or whatever. She basically like her entire stream is her doing whatever that she's doing in her life at the time, and then having Hassan in the background. And a lot of different streamers just do that, which I'm not going to like shit on people for like, you know, you do you get your audience one way, you know. And lots of streamers do that. Like I found people on TikTok doing it. They'll literally just have like Hassan playing and then they react to him reacting to things, which for me personally, I don't want my content to be about that. And yes, I could grow so much fucking faster if I did that. This is why you should read instead of watching videos, IMO. Really? I mean, I can, yeah. Reading does help a lot. And I think it's really fun. I think it adds a lot. I'm just dyslexic. That's why I usually do the videos. But a lot of people will do like video reactions to Hassan because they can't. It's like a bouncing off point. It gets people's attention because he's very polarizing in some aspects. People either really like him or they really hate him. There's people who will literally like jump on a negativity train about his shit, which honestly, I find him to be very mild, in my opinion. I find him to just be like, I don't know. He said some things where I'm just like, but not everybody is gonna, you're not gonna agree with everybody completely, you know? Let's see. Darius says, because Hassan is like a thought leader and people consume his opinions without reading around the issues. I guess that is quite true. And I didn't understand that until I started getting more involved on streaming on Twitch, you know? You're Polish or British, Hassan says a lot of wild stuff. Yeah, I don't know. Personally, I've learned a lot of stuff about Hassan from streaming. Like, I don't know. I listened to him. I don't know. Like, how do I say it? I don't know. When I was younger, I heard of him a little bit, but yeah. If you're a leftist screamer, he's inescapable TBH. Yeah, like all the time, people would be like, "What do you think about Hassan doing this? What do you think about Hassan doing this?" And I'm like, "That's his decision to do." And then people just don't like. They want me to get involved in the drama, which is why I really choose to not like react to people's bad moments like that, because from what you like showed me, like the quote unquote crash out or whatever, it just seemed like he's having a hard time with a lot of the like whatever is happening, and he's just frustrated because people keep trying to like, they put him on this pedestal. And I don't know, having a pedestal in any way is a lot. Yeah, it's the dog collar stuff. That's part of it too. Like, people who know jack shit about fucking dogs are talking about a goddamn dog collar that they don't even understand. They've never trained a dog before. They've never had a large dog. Because I looked into his dog and everything. I found out that she's part golden. I found out that she's a really big dog, like 100 plus pounds. Yeah, and he got called out in the mayoral debate as well last night. Yeah, because people use him as ammunition. Because he has said comments like the 9/11 comments or whatever, which honestly, if he didn't do that, people would not be able to talk critically on the left-leaning spaces and have it be socially accepted about 9/11. Like, I don't think people understand how big of a change that caused for people. His worst was celebrating the death of the Queen. Like I said, I think he's pretty mild, and that's just my perspective, because number one, he wouldn't be platformed to the level that he is if he was not like palatable. Twitch would have had like completely banned him from the fucking platform if he endorsed a lot of violence. If he like was negative or whatever. Like, he would have had so much social repercussions. The reason why he's getting so much flack for every little fucking thing, and this isn't even me like joking or whatever. This is me being like, he's not even that profitable. Like, he's becoming more profitable because brands and people are viewing him as a way to be like, if they're close to him, then people will be like, oh, well, they're anti-Trump, and they don't have to say anything. They just have to be affiliated with him. And that is, it's not about him, it's about what he says, you know? And the reason why he's so popular, or at least I would say partially why right now, is because of the current administration. People don't want to actively go against Trump and MAGA because they will lose a lot of benefits that they have. Whether that be like different media, like stuff or whatever. So he's been in a lot more interviews. He's been in a lot of like magazines, newspapers, all that sort of thing. People are starting to platform him more because it is like, it's literally like an FU to MAGA and shit. And he streams like 8 hours a day to what, 30,000 people. He'll be making Twitch a wedge. Yeah, but I'm not talking about Twitch. I'm talking about what actually makes you money, and that's doing external things outside of Twitch. You can make money through Twitch, but it's not, it really depends on how you do it, you know? If he's not part of the partner program, or he doesn't have a contract with Twitch, which to my understanding, I don't think he does anymore. He might have had it changed or whatever, but I think he was able to finally get rid of like ads and shit like that on his channel too, which I applaud him for, because if you are a larger streamer, you have that leverage and you can do that shit. I, as a smaller streamer, do not have the ability to do that shit without just leaving the platform or abandoning like all progress that I could have, you know? Oh, I see him. I'm talking about why Twitch let him get away with a lot of stuff. Yeah, but I'm also talking about like the social, like the influence that he has. It's like a perpetuating cycle. You get to that level. Like, I assume he has like a publicity team, right? Like, he has people. Yeah, he has a lot of social capital right now because he's in direct opposition to Trump. People platforming Hassan basically gives the idea of, hey, I'm anti-Trump, I'm anti like MAGA or whatever. With enormous social capital, agreed. But they can say all like, hey, like I'm anti all this without actively saying it. So then when it comes to Hassan having like any of Hassan's views as a whole, they can just say, oh, cherry pick the ones that are the best for him, or they let their audience assume what Hassan is about and like what he like does or whatever. So they're like, oh, I know Hassan is like this, and if they're platforming Hassan, then therefore they probably are like this. So the actual content creator, the actual organization, whoever he is collaborating with, doesn't actively have to view or explicitly state their like viewpoints. They can just be like by proxy and let their audience assume. Most people are not going to be very educated on it. Or at the worst, if the people are just like, oh, well, why are you platforming him? Why are you doing this or whatever? People could just be like, oh, well, I didn't know it was like that. And they can just be like, whatever. And then it just becomes like, whatever. So either way, it benefits them. I don't know. Daria says the problem is he's also so anti-Dems, which is why they've moved away from giving him a platform as a party. Beg to differ. I beg to differ. But not in the ways, I don't know. I'm part of the more left-leaning stuff. Like the campaigns that I participate in and everything at the local level can be more central left or whatever, but that's because it doesn't go super far left here. And I try to help things go in the right direction, not have like the perfect candidate, because it's better than what we had, And he's been kicked out of DNC meetings in the last 2 years. Bernie and Zoran have massively distanced themselves from him this year. That's true. I don't know if I would agree with that or not. I haven't kept, like, I would say in some aspects they do distance themselves from him, but I would also like to point out that Hassan is a commentator. He is not a politician. So being affiliated with a commentator or having interviews with, that's why I really think he needs to learn to lean more into journalism, because people aren't his strong suit, but it's literally his cover. So if he can't do that, then he's gonna be in a world of more of this shit. I think he was seen as a Joe Rogan of the left, and they didn't really understand that he's a Marxist, not a social democrat. It's like, I don't know. See, the thing is I've been doing, I don't know if he's participated in other campaigns or whatever, and I didn't do the social aspect of campaigning or whatever, like platforming the people that I've worked in campaigns with, but I worked with mayoral campaigns. I worked with a mayoral campaign that turned Omaha blue for the first time in a really long time. That got like the first black mayor of Omaha. And that has like a whole lot of history or whatever. Like I was part of that campaign process from like way before the primaries and everything, and I got to see how all that works. I am not a standard Dem. Like he is more of a centrist Dem, especially financially. He was part of the city's treasury and stuff like that. He's very like center left. I am a democratic socialist or socialist. That's like the titles that I normally go by. But that doesn't mean that I can't help prop up people. So like for me, I'm pretty biased about it because I've had to go through working publicly like with people from different perspectives that I don't wholeheartedly like 100% like agree with, Daria says, yes, but the key is you understand you need to get the Dems in over the Republicans, etc. And they're not all going to match how far left you are. Yeah, and I think he understands that too, otherwise he wouldn't have participated. At this point, this is hearsay, because I've never spoken to the man. At least to my knowledge, unless he's been in my chat. But like, which first, but you know, they're not all gonna match how far left you are. He didn't participate though. He platformed them, and he endorsed them publicly. When you don't live in the city, it's kind of hard to participate a ton. I'm being real. He didn't endorse Kamala. I didn't endorse Kamala. He didn't endorse Biden. I didn't endorse Biden. Like, you're literally like endorsing someone and saying the lesser of two evils is very different. I haven't endorsed, like, I endorsed Ewing here in Omaha because I was part of that campaign. I endorsed Bernie because I worked those campaigns, you know? But it's also because it's for a greater message and a greater purpose, you know? It's different. And he said there would be no real difference between Kamala and Trump. Yeah, he endorsed Bernie 100%. Yeah. Also, I'm not like a Hasanabi head. Like, I respect the dude, and I think what he's doing is really good. And I hope that, like, if anyone who is like a Hasanabi head or whatever, don't fucking come at me and like say cruel shit to me because of my perspective, because I'm trying to give constructive criticism here, because a lot of people straight up just like dog on him. And I think that is the worst thing that you can do. Not necessarily, it's great for views. It's great for views, but like it's just so unnecessary, IMO. But yeah, you can like endorse whoever you want. You know, you can go through all that whole fucking process and be like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. But what matters is like the message. Cause yeah, you can dog on me instead. I'm not a fan. I don't care. I'm not a Hassan fan either. I respect the dude. I view him to be more of like, you know, like when you work in a field and then there's like someone who like is very well known in the field and you're just like, yeah, no, the imaginary people you're, yeah, totally, totally, totally. I'm not arguing with anyone, sir. I'm just saying. And I do get messages from people when I talk about Hassan. I'm not even fucking joking with you. So, like, I've had people, like, message me on Instagram and be like, I think you should, like, da 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 da. Or fucking DMs on fucking, for realsy, yes. I'm not even joking with you. This is why I do not stray into drama content, because every time I fucking stray into fucking, like, that's why when Andrew, like a couple days ago, when you were like from here, from Twitch, yes, Twitch, fucking TikTok, it's ridiculous. And I've had people message me on Discord being like, oh, I think you should do this more, I think you should do that more, I think you should do that. And I'm like, sure, that would be cool for views or whatever, that's great. And I'm not even doing this from like an integrity standpoint. One, shit talking on someone who is like, I agree with, like, not with everything, but a lot, isn't going to get anybody anywhere. It's not something that I want to promote on my platform. Yes, I can be like, oh, what you said here is bad, what you did here is bad, but it's not relevant to the content that I am making. Therefore, I usually don't discuss it. Like, a lot of the drama that people bring up about Hassan isn't actually about like different political things that are happening. Or like if we were to talk about Hassan being mentioned in the mayoral debate in New York City, that's something I would cover. That is something that I would discuss. But him and his dog or whatever, I don't, it's his own fucking drama. I'm not getting involved in like the drama that's just about him, because I don't I don't know his dog. I don't do any of that stuff. My issues is there's not enough reading from Hassan. Reading is hard when you're on Twitch, when you also have to like read chat too. It's like I have to divert all of my attention and I can't interact with chat enough. So like from my perspective, I would understand why that would be hard. Because then you lose like key points and key pivot points, and then it makes it harder to stream. But like, yeah. I don't know. If there were things that were like, I mean, no offense, but like if there were things that were actually relevant to politics that he was in like controversy for, like if I was streaming during his like 9/11 comments or whatever, I'd probably cover that because it's like, yeah, it's relevant to a lot of like political commentary and shit like that. But his dog, a shock collar, which for starters, if you actually know anything about dog training or have trained very large breeds or reactive dogs, you would understand that shock collars are not always a bad thing. Like, it's just, obviously it's like a last resort, but like, it's just people who are uneducated commenting on something they know nothing about, you know? And it's like, it's fucking stupid. Like, I'm tired of like going onto fucking Reddit and seeing like live stream fail shit just constantly. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, you're really trying to push this shit right now? Daria says it's an iceberg, and the actual argument about shock collars, 90% other stuff. Yes, but they're projecting because the shit that they actually want to argue about with him, it holds no value. Like it just can't stand up to like the shit that he's doing, you know? Actually critique people properly and then I'll pay attention to you. But if you're just gonna sit there and discuss something you don't know jack shit about, you're not taking the time to learn more about it, you've never owned a large breed, then why the fuck are you talking about it? Like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'm sorry. Anyways, so like, yeah, he's gonna crash out online. I've crashed out online. I've had hard times online. And to have someone like, do the reading, sure. But to have someone, like, exploit my hard times just to platform themselves and make them look better, I've had people do that shit. I want nothing to do with them. I actively ice them out. They come into my chat, I ignore them. It's like, you're gonna be bitchy to me about me having a hard time. Why would I acknowledge your presence? Like, I'm not gonna give you any of that shit. And like, it's just ridiculous. At that level, it's probably different, but it's annoying to me because everything goes back to all that. I've often suspected you shock all your pets and Andrew throughout the stream. Ah. I don't do that. Mainly because it's not necessary. You know? But I have worked with highly reactive dogs who have had to have shock collars before because they're in training and they're used to fucking fighting. They were literally forced to fight each other. And they have a prey drive and they get locked in and they can get triggered. So you have to have something not to hurt them, but to break them out of like that trance that they're in. That's the only time it's fucking useful. And people just don't get it. They have no idea. And they're just like, that's just abusing them further. Keep them away from other dogs. You can do that. Or are you going to keep your dog confined to a fucking house all the time? Never take them out? Never allow for them to learn that other circumstances and situations are okay? Is that really an appropriate thing to do? I personally don't think it is. I would much rather have like something that breaks their attention, doesn't actually shock them, because if anyone has ever worked with a shock collar or is experienced with it, you wear that shit on yourself and you test it on yourself before you would ever put it on an animal. Like, ever. And it's meant as a distraction. It's meant to be like a little like buzz, you know? It doesn't even hurt you. Just like it's a sensation that is different enough to their normal bodily sensations that breaks their attention. You can, I'm not even going to dive super deep into it, but you can have positive reinforcement with it too. It's just like the vibration collar, you know? Because it had no fucking prongs. So if you get them to Pavlov associate a vibration with like a treat or whatever, and they're locked in trying to do a behavior that could potentially harm them, and then you're just like, oh, happy sensation of treats. Not saying that a shock would be like, but a vibration would be like that. Then you're fucking fine. Like, I don't know. Pets are a bit like relationships, IMO. They're always different to the ones you have. Yeah. It's just people who are uneducated. They've never had a dog. Like, and they would just say, like, I've had people with dogs that I've worked through with that process say that I should have just put the dog down. Like, my family should have just put the dogs down. Which, for me, putting an animal down is the absolute last resort. If they're having behavioral misconduct, what? The answer is to just kill them instead of do everything that you can to help them understand they don't have to act that way? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. It's just, I get pissed with it. And I'm not saying that his dog's to that extent, but I'm saying that's my personal experience. So, different tactics are necessary to help work through different issues with dogs. Daria says, like, if I message a girl, which is normally about playing computer games, I ask permission, and I'm sure lots of people don't do that, etc. Yeah. People just don't get it. They just don't. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, commentary like that, it's fucking stupid. I don't engage in it. Like, I'm engaging in it now because you got me, like, pissed about that shit. And it's like, I'm using it as an example, but yeah. Yeah, type 2 says, his dog is super trained. She has a collar that vibrates when she's off leash. Yes, exactly. Exactly, type 2. I agree. It took me a while to off-leash train my dogs. I am very lucky that I live in an area where I got the opportunity to do it with dogs who were overall very sweet, very kind, or very avoidant of other people. But off-leash training is hard. And it was made up by the worst people on the internet, Zionists and pedos. I know, it was an Ethan Klein thing. Like, I know. But that's just my thing. I respect the dude enough to criticize his work, not necessarily what other people think of him. Also type 2. Hi. I do have to go soon. I gotta make food. But, yeah. That's my perspective. I respect the stuff he does. Do I agree wholeheartedly with everything he does? No. I don't know. It's complicated for me because I have a different relationship with that level, you know? So, yeah. That dog lives better than I do. Yeah, vibes. And it's not like, I don't know. It's different for me.
You can keep streaming if you want. I'm gonna make balsamic meatballs.
Are you making food, or do you want to get food, or?
Making it.
You are?
Sometimes you just gotta do it.
Are you really?
Yeah.
I'd be okay with, like, nummy nums, but okay. Okay.
What do you want?
Anyways, sorry, we were talking about something real quick. Daria says, GG Josie, I got to go to bed, 2 games tomorrow, and I've forgotten to charge my leg compressors. Vibes. I hope you're telling Andrew about the canals for, we're just talking about something real quick. Yeah, anyways. Not trying to be like, oh, ooh, what is she talking about? But yeah, I'm tired of that shit. Like, I don't know. I think it's disrespectful, honestly. And that's not me. If that hurts your feelings and you're like a content creator or whatever watching this, sorry if I'm hurting your feelings. But what I choose to do, if you feel bad about what you do and that sort of thing, if it makes you feel bad about it, maybe don't think that I think lesser of you. Just maybe change your own standards for yourself. Sorry. Sorry if that hurts your feelings, but it's just how it is. And it can get better. I got a follower like an hour ago, and I just never said anything. I should shout him out. Guapo drug den. That's so fucking cursed. That's a fun name. I just saw it. Anyways. Yeah, anyways. Y'all got me fucking on that shit again. I vent to Andrew about this. Cause like people in my personal life, they'll be like, why don't you talk about that? Why don't you discuss that? Why isn't that like part of your stream or whatever? Because it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. And I don't want to promote that shit. Anyways. It's just, it goes both ways for lefties and for conservative people. Because I'm like, you can be a shitbag person. I'm not gonna lie. There's plenty of shitbag people who are pretty fucking good at their job. Who aren't like pedophiles or anything like horrible. It's just they have a personality that's not great. I wouldn't hang out with them personally. Like, there's plenty of content creators, both left and right, like conservative and right wing or whatever, that just don't have stellar personalities. I would not enjoy them. And I don't really talk about it because personally, if I discuss it a lot, people are just gonna have a lot more ammunition to go against me and be like, oh, then fuck that bitch. And I'm just like, I want that smoke because I don't want to stream and have to defend myself all the time. And once you put yourself in that position, it takes a while to get out of it. I'm not saying that's a bad position to be in if you like that confrontational stuff. It's just, I don't know, I get annoyed. I'm really rude about it, honestly. If someone's like, oh, why do you think you're doing that? And I'm like, okay, fuck off. Have your own opinion. I don't give a shit. But it also took a lot of shit to get me to be to that point, so. Am I perfect? No. But it's just, I don't invite that shit. Will I in the future? Possibly. I don't know. Maybe I'll just become a really confrontational bitch. Who fucking knows? And I already kind of am, so that's why I don't talk about it, because I'm like, I have nothing nice to say about that. I don't know. We could talk about this for a while, and I'll just be like... But yes, George, lefty streamer. Many other lefty streamers use him as a way to go up, which honestly would suck. IMO. Imagine trying to like rough. Oh no. Whole different world. Any hazels? Y'all got me like heated about the dog collar stuff is personal to me. And that's just because of my dogs. And I find a lot of people are just really not educated about shit that they talk about online, and I'm just like, ugh. I also do have to go soon because I have some homework, bruvs. I got homework and lots of little things that I got to do to help make my life just a little bit easier. Josh says, hi, sensitive questions. Looking for the opinion from a woman's perspective. Are abortions women's healthcare? Yes. Bruh. That's a valid question, I guess. I've talked about it a little bit before, but yes, they are. Abortions are women's healthcare. They're quite important. I also like your picture of the cat. I think that's cute. I know of cats. Is it general healthcare or specifically women's healthcare? General. General. W, thank you. Okay. That's all I gotta say about that one. Are you... He's like, help me. Help me.
I'm just thinking about all of the things I now need to replace on my car.
Hey, content, if you'll let me. We can live stream from the garage.
We can live stream exactly why you torque your bolts with a torque wrench and not a few ugga-duggas. Especially when it's the transmission.
Wait, you did the ugga-duggas?
That's
so funny.
Okay,
I think it is.
The threads on the bolt and the threads in the transmission are not stripped.
which means that pop sound that we heard when we pulled out of your performance when I first started throwing throttle body code.
Yeah.
I think that was the bolt finally coming out.
I think it was too, because it sounded different, and you were like, why does it sound weird? And I was like, you're fine. And then it went into limp mode, like, instantly.
Well, I think the engine moving that much pushed it against the fans.
Yeah.
Finally.
Hi, Oliver.
And then that might have been what grooved the pulleys as well.
Well, the pulley was, I don't know.
The pulleys are still really weird.
Yeah, they still look
but like,
but I think it's what added extra wear. But the split one, I think that was beforehand. Because it looked dirty on the inside. Like a little bit more worn down. This is we're doing lots of car shit troubleshooting for his vehicle.
I cooked my transmission mount.
We also have to feed Michael. He's still sleeping, but that's why I didn't bother him. But you know where he is. You gotta find him. You should find him so I can feed him.
We should probably just let him sit for a little bit. We've been force feeding him for
but it's not enough cows though. We gotta get at least like a quarter of his calorie intake in today.
Alright, well, I don't know where he is.
I know. Anyways.
Ain't got no clue.
I can't feed him too much stuff, otherwise he'll like throw it up. I guess maybe we should give it some time, but I want to give him a little. I'm giving him a little extra the next time we feed him. We should do it after we eat, when we have our food, because that's when he's more motivated to eat himself. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. I have like my own shit to do. Chat. R.I.P. though. There's always so much shit happening. And you're like, Josie, pay attention to the drama. George says, if it's stripped thread in the trans, you can install a helicoil and install a new bolt. That's what I was thinking, too. But it's not stripped. George says, if it's stripped thread in the trans, you can install a helicoil and install a new bolt.
Yeah, I've got helicoils, and I've got one that's the same right size. But that's the thing. It didn't strip the thread.
So, like,
it's because the light's not on.
Is that no? It's like.
Yeah, give it a wipe.
It gets so greasy.
I don't think the threads are stripped in either the transmission or the bolt.
Yeah.
Which means I didn't torque it correctly.
He didn't.
So we're gonna buy some red Loctite.
Did you not?
Well, see, here's the thing. I was taking it in and out, like, over and over and over again for a while, and I don't think...
Oh, you didn't want to Loctite it when you were, like...
Yeah, because I had to keep taking it in and out when I was doing repairs on the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I might have just forgotten to actually torque it.
No, you didn't,
because I remember... Or my torque wrench...
torque wrench...
I had a shitty torque wrench
that it wasn't working.
And it didn't go to the...
Loctite. No, and you didn't use Loctite because we were like, oh, we'll have our friends. Remember, we were like, oh, we'll have someone come up and bring it. And then
this is way later.
No, I know. But remember, we were going to have someone come up and bring it eventually. And you also said that you wanted to test it and you weren't going to put any of that in till later because you were convinced it would fall apart again. Or you would need to make more adjustments. I remember because I was confused.
That might have been for the intake manifold. Because I did have Loctite for those.
No, it was before. It was when you did your transmission. And you were like really stressed about it. And you were like, I just know that it's going to break again. And I was like, I think you're good.
I don't remember this, but...
I was like, there's like remover for the Loctite.
I don't know where Michael is though.
We're talking about so much shit today, bro. Okay, we're not going to address any more people's fucking drama, okay, chat? If I knew these fucking people, I still wouldn't talk about it. I'd be like, unless you want me to, I ain't going to say fucking shit. Fight your own battles. I'll just make it worse. Because a lot of the drama that I see on Twitch, this is not like explicitly to this situation, by the way, but a lot of the drama that I've noticed has to do with like streamers trying to defend other streamers, but they're not educated enough. Or not educated enough. They're not close enough to the situation to actually add any constructive input, and then it makes it worse. So I'm just like, oh, you're really digging that deep, aren't you? And then you're just it makes them look bad, and then they're just like tanking, and you're just like, oh no, stop talking, And then they get baited by their audience, and then they just keep going. And that's my nightmare. Nightmare. So, time for me to go. Tomorrow, like I said, I might either be really early or, oh my god, really late. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to go to my performance tomorrow. So, we shall see. I might just have like a long day stream. I feel like that'd be pretty chill. I'll just do all the shit I need to do today, which I kind of have to do anyways. Alright. You found him?
He's sleeping in the basement.
Oh, the baby. We should grab him. You want to do it after?
Let's.
Okay, I gotta go. Okay, so thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow. So sleep well, stay safe, stay alive, and just